119th Army-Navy game. It's one of the biggest rivalries in college football. We caught up with play-by-play broadcasters Rich DeMarco and Pete Medhurst. Check it out.
Well, obviously, when you take a look at the student athletes who are involved in this game, obviously they're going to play 60 minutes of football on Saturday. But what they have signed up for to attend Army and to attend Navy is something greater than football can ever be. They have signed up to post-graduation to be an Army Ranger or a Navy SEAL and, protect our freedom. So, we can go about our daily lives the way we see fit because they've made a very unselfish commitment to our country. Sure, they get to play Division I football for 4 years, but, more importantly, they have signed up to protect our freedom ultimately upon graduation, which in my mind makes them extraordinary student athletes as a result.
And how about all the people who care about this game? You look at everyone knows someone in the Army or the Navy. Maybe it's themselves, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a close friend that served, that's either attended one of the academies or enlisted, been an ROTC officer. So it's one of those games where every person has some kind of connection. Maybe it's to one of the academies, maybe it's to both, or one of the branches, both of the branches, the Army and the Navy. So it really brings out competitiveness, rooting interest, but in a good way. Really the winners are America, as John F. Kennedy used to say in the Army-Navy game.
Well, what better game to play than America's game, especially in this sense. It's really interesting to see that dynamic take form on field. What do you guys particularly really enjoy about this particular game when it happens?
Well, I think there's really some great, it's like 3 acts, I like to say. The pregame with the flyovers, the march on, the Service Academy exchange, the cadets and midshipmen that spend the semester at the other academy, they get exchanged at midfield before the game so they could watch the Army-Navy game with their academy. And actually that's depicted on the game coin of this year's game. USA, the presenting sponsor, puts together a great coin each year, and the Service Academy exchange is actually depicted on the reverse side of that coin. And then, of course, the game, hotly contested on the field, and then at the end, brothers in arms standing, both Army and Navy, for each other's national anthem with the goal to sing second.
No doubt about that. And I think also when you take a look at this game, being on a standalone basis, as Rich mentioned, because of the great sponsorship of USAA and others, the fact that when you can go to a game, how many games has President Donald Trump been to this year? That would be 0. He's going to attend Saturday's game. There's so many great dignitaries, so many important people who make very important decisions around the world, especially when we're in times of conflict or to help us stay out of conflict, more importantly right now.
Saturday afternoon, just after 3 o'clock kick time. Go to ArmyNavyGame.com for all the information, the timelines, where you can watch the game, where you can listen to the game, ArmyNavyGame.com.